First of all, Inmaculada, thank you so much for for having your time for Startup 2.0, and it's nice to meet you here in London, in such a nice place. We would like to ask you some questions about Southern and European startup scene. To begin, I'd like you to tell us what's from your point of view the difference between a normal business owner and a new innovative entrepreneur.
There's a huge difference between the two. And even within the startup scene, you find that there's many copycat cloning type of individuals. Well, the concept of entrepreneur is really something that emerges out of Silicon Valley. That's when the word begins to go everywhere as denoting someone that creates mostly intellectual property. So basically something completely new. What we need to do is stop cloning things and creating things that we actually bring to market for the first time with innovation. Sometimes there's not even a market for what you have created, which is why it's risky, which is why investors don't see it, etc., etc.
Which type of initiatives like events, mentorships, camps, contests do you think are really working, and which ones should be improved or recreated?
Well, there's so many now, okay, not when I started. Actually, when I started, the only thing that was happening at the time was something called Gorilla Park. Then you have the typical networking in which you find some investors, some entrepreneurs, maybe someone speak that night. And for example, in London there is something called Minibar. There are the media-driven events. So you have like a big newspaper or something like TechCrunch, you know, they do events. And they have all become hugely expensive. I'm talking about thousands of euros, okay? Well, people begin to wonder, what on earth am I getting out of this conference? And I'm one of those, for example. I speak in a lot of conferences, and but if I'm going to go to one in which I pay, I value more the networking. It's really important that when you go on stage, rather than selling your company, you actually deliver knowledge to people. Otherwise, don't come. I mean, right now this year you have the famous Geek and Roller merging with the web, and we're gonna have, you know, Geek and Roller was fantastically attended, and it's a good laugh, especially Morten Lund comes. And Morten Lund, remember, obviously the web, who I used to go when it was a bloggers conference. If I was to go to a conference as an entrepreneur, I would say, right, how many investors are going to this thing? Because you want to spend time with them. And be local, be very active in your market. So think what event you can go monthly and choose the right one for you. Think what conference in your country you're going to attend, just to be part of the scene in your own country. And then choose 1 or 2 events in Europe, and if you can really afford it, one in the US. And I would plan it like that. I mean, right now everyone is asking me, are you going to Southwest by Southwest? Because it's the one to go.
Okay. What does Europe need to become a Silicon Valley?
Okay, that is like the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Okay. The honest truth is that Silicon Valley cannot be replicated. And why? Because the ingredients are different. Okay, so if Silicon Valley eats a pizza, in New York the ingredients are fish and potatoes and cucumbers. And the ingredient that makes Silicon Valley be extremely efficient is that setting up a startup, you do it in 2 seconds. Why? Because hiring is very easy. Okay, you need engineers, like clever, hardcore engineers, and you have hundreds of them because they've been working at Google, at Oracle, okay? And when you say, I've got an idea, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z, within a week you have a team. Okay, that's why it's crazy. In Europe, you need a Delphi developer and you go weeks trolling for this person online, asking everyone you know, do you have a good Delphi developer? Because we don't have a computer industry. In Europe, our industries are automotive, construction, energy, design, fashion, architecture. You understand why it's almost impossible. The second thing is the investors in Silicon Valley are investors who have been investing for decades on end. The mentality is there is always a time that I can see someone, even if it's for 5 minutes, even if it's for 10. I have had 10-minute meetings in Silicon Valley. And they prefer that. Why? Because it's an opportunistic culture. Okay. So in Europe, what we need to focus is in our own talent and how we're going to support our talent, rather than thinking, how can we be more like Silicon Valley? I really don't ask myself that question. Silicon Valley is there, and we do things in a different way here. I think mentality is what needs to change. You go to events in London and I always bump into the same investors. There are investors that go to the events. I know who they are. There are other investors that they never set foot in a networking event. How are you going to change that? I'd rather change that mentality and then decide if we're going to build an area of town called Tech City or Distrito 22, you know what I mean? It's not about architecture or construction, it's about mindset.
You were the president of Southern European Tech Tour, right?
Last year.
Okay, last year. It was held in Bilbao and Rome. Mm-hmm. Any special startup you met there? Like, are they or are we different in any way?
And the creativity I found was coming from a different place. The surprising thing would be to meet like two guys and they have built the whole platform on their own. And you say, where does this thing come from? Oh, we started in university and now we have continued on our own. So it's incredibly fascinating to see that alone they can just take the company to such level of growth. I mean, the northern Spain has a huge legacy of companies being created by individuals and run by themselves through their families by generations. It's an extremely entrepreneurial culture that doesn't exist at that level in other parts of Europe, I would say.
As an advisor and member of both public and private organizations, which are the difference to join ones and the others?
Governments have the duty to invest in entrepreneurship. It's their duty. So public money is probably some of the best money you can get at the beginning, because the money is invested with no motives of return. Okay, what they want is for you to take off, employ people, show that there's creativity in this part of the world, and that's all they want. And it's a great thing, and it's what they should do even more. Now, when you approach a private investor, normally an angel investor invests with a lot more shared passion rather than a professional investor like someone in a venture fund. Okay, and the difference is the angel investor is investing his or her money. It's a personal decision. They need to think 5 times, not 3, if you really are projecting your sales correctly. They need to come in when you're almost pre-sale or pre-revenue, because they need to make sure that if they're going to give you that money, that this is really going to happen. many venture capital, especially in the UK, have adopted the US Silicon Valley style of investing. You make sure the entrepreneurs keep their equity in a proportion that they're still motivated. Okay, so you invest in a Series A round and you're never going to get more than 20-25%, maybe 30%. Other parts of Europe that they don't have that tradition, the valuations are all over the place. And you end up seeing entrepreneurs that on the first series, they lose control of the company. And that creates horrific dynamics that are very hard to manage, because then you're working for the man. So maybe rather than going and seeing them in April, you find a way to fund the company and you go see them in September when you have a better trajectory and you can really defend why your valuation is the one you are trying to get, as opposed to how much do they want for your company.
What's the secret, what's the key to be chosen by business angels, venture capitals?
There's many ways to create value. The most important thing you need to ask yourself as an entrepreneur is, what do I want to do with my product? Where would I be the happiest? And if Google's going to make me an offer and I'm going to end up with 3 million in the bank and then I work for Google and that's my dream, excellent, go for it. But if your vision is, I want to be the next Microsoft or the next whatnot, okay, well then you're going to have to apply yourself into knowing about how to grow a business, how to grow sales, how to create marketing campaigns, how to deal with investors, how to learn how to run a board, the value of shares. Okay, you have to create a team. No investor really these days invests in one guy that owns the entire company. I know Google Ventures really well, okay, and also the mergers and acquisitions people. The truth is, Google buys a lot of companies, that's true. Many companies don't even make it to the press. Google likes to buy companies that are set up by super clever engineers. All that matters to Google is that team. What are they? 5 guys? 6 guys? Who are they? Obviously, what is it that they have put together? Something amazing, okay? Now, does Google care if this something amazing is already launched, or do they have clients? No. No, because if Google buys it, Google's going to put it in the market and have all of a sudden 20,000 million customers. And then the fourth thing, can these people within Google continue to develop this and build a phenomenal product? And if the answer to all of this is yes, they make an offer. They buy into future markets.
What would you find if you could set up a new startup now?
Now, like 14 years.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever stop. I curate a lot. I get involved in a lot of startups as an advisor. I mean, making sure that my clients, the entrepreneurs, they get from me everything that I've learned about, how to really set up a business. But yeah, maybe when I retire, I'll set up a new company just for my amusement.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Looking forward to seeing you in Startup 2.0.
Yeah, hopefully. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks to you.